when you want to do research, when you want to work, when you want to schedule your one-on-one meetings with students, what projects you want to work with. I think that's really important. And
choose to do whatever you want and work on a very ambitious project and come back in the fall.
Most important to me was doing research that had a real world impact.
Like, just because I'm from a small town doesn't mean I can't be a scientist.
That is my real strength, and I should really commit to something that I'm good at.
What factors influence your choice between careers in academia and industry job?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest factor is in terms of what is my day-to-day going to look like. And so what I mean by that is if you're working in industry or government, a lot of the times your day-to-day is going to be determined by your boss, and your boss is going to be figuring out what you need to be doing and what projects you're going to be working on. And personally, I really like the academic freedom, not necessarily academic freedom, but the freedom as an academic that you get. And so you get to more or less set your own schedule. I mean, obviously you have to go to things like administrative meetings and you have to go to class, but you get to figure out when you want to do research, when you want to work, when you want to schedule your one-on-one meetings with students, what projects you want to work with. I think that's really important. And obviously you still have to apply for grants and things like that, but you are the ship captain and you get to choose what you want. I mean, you have a boss with your department head or other folks, but really you are steering your career. And I think that's really empowering, and it's scary for some people, but I think that it's really the best part about academia, besides the mentorship component that Aaron had talked about. I think that being able to be in control and being able to just do what you want, obviously within reason, is really crucial, and for me is the most important factor.
I think I really echo that. I completely agree with those sentiments, because I think that's why I chose academia. So I've worked in sort of like a startup tech industry before, and I've worked in government sector. And doing all of that, I gravitated back to academia, and I feel like I'm here to stay because of all this, like being that motivation of going to work every day. That I think is the biggest thing, and I think that is the most fulfilling for me if I have the intellectual freedom to define my own work and to do my own projects. I also really enjoy teaching and mentorship. That's what I realized while doing my PhD, and I feel like and that is why I was also looking at research only positions before, but then I realized that I enjoy mentorship and teaching so much that I need this all in like a blend, which is basically what academia offers you. Not to say that it's not demotivating sometimes to be in academia. It is really long hours. You can really feel like it's going nowhere, and that self-initiation it just takes everything that you've got. But on the other hand, you get to do your own things, and you really get to define your own path in your work and through your work, and work towards things that you actually value and you want to make a difference for. I think those are the factors that made me choose academia. And also personal factors, like, you can basically adjust your timings a little bit depending on certain other things like family factors or stuff like that. But then you have to work doubly hard later. But I think industry is not like that. You have to basically go according to the schedule that is defined by, say, 4 levels above you, and you don't really have that flexibility. I also really enjoy the summer in academia, because then you can basically just choose to do whatever you want and work on a very ambitious project and come back in the fall.
I think I'll provide a little bit of a counter perspective to Tim and Meg. But I started out thinking I wanted to do academia. Like when I was in undergrad, I wanted to do academia. And as I grew through grad school, I kind of figured out that wasn't really what I actually wanted to do. I knew that what was most important to me was doing research that had a real world impact. And it became more and more clear that I wasn't getting the satisfaction that I expected to get from the other parts of academia, like teaching and service. So coming out of my PhD, I was fairly disenchanted with academia at that point, which I think is something a lot of people probably go through. And so I decided that I would start looking outside of it in industry. And I think that through my requirements or wants of having a remote job, because I knew I didn't work well in the office. I never liked going into grad school to work in the office in like my little cubicle. That was a nightmare. I knew I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. So I was looking for remote work. I wanted it to be flexible so that I could have a work-life balance. So I kind of ended up being, I guess, cornered into a research position at a university. So that allows me the freedom to do new and exciting research, work from home, which was huge for me, but also, continue to engage in a way that I think that maybe is difficult to do in a traditional industry position. I get to publish, I get to stay up to date with everything that's going on. I don't feel like I'm trapped in a 9 to 5 where I'm clocking in, clocking out for a manager. There's a lot of perks to what I ended up doing.
I appreciate those comments, Megan, because I don't know what it's like on that side, and I think it's great. Well, all jokes aside, I think it's great to keep that in mind and in case things don't work out in academia, and I think that's cool to know that those opportunities are out there. But yeah, I'll echo everyone else's comments from the academic perspective. The flexibility in the hours is absolutely tremendous. Whether it's I simply just need to take my dog to the vet, and that sounds crazy, but like just having that flexibility goes such a long way. And then the mentoring, obviously, I think is what kept me in academia, and being able to mentor these students, especially ones from underrepresented groups, and getting to see the looks on their faces when they conduct a research project, and having that real world impact, and overcoming this imposter syndrome. Like, just because I'm from a small town doesn't mean I can't be a scientist. And so those are things that were really important for me. I felt it was important for me to stay in academia because of the networking opportunities. And so I feel like I know so many academics at different institutions now. I don't feel that I'm just siloed at Arizona State University. And so that collaboration and network of scientists, I think it really speaks to me. But, I don't want to say that doesn't exist in industry, because I'm not really sure.
I think it would depend on what industry you ended up in. Are you at a small private company? Then yeah, you're going to feel that squeeze of the networking more. But I think if networking is important to you and you like having a wide net, there are a lot of research and industry jobs out there that encourage that. They send you to conferences, to symposiums to bring that home. So I think, like you said, Erin, it goes both ways.
I just wanted to add, for if you don't know, and I know the summer is a great time for some of us academics, but there's oftentimes no pay in the summer. And so there is a pressure to sort of secure grant funding. And it may not necessarily be the pressure from your unit, but you feel that pressure because you need to be paid in the summer. And so navigating that money for a 9-month salary, while the salaries are typically really competitive, you have to be really good at budgeting if you don't have any resources in the summer. So I just wanted to add that.
So I would put kind of from my perspective, more so from my experience, like how I ended up where I am, is that like from the beginning, I wanted to sort of keep my options open and stay competitive, and be able to have like both options to go into academia and to go into the industry, because I felt like both things are pretty interesting. And so I didn't want to commit to one of them, but the downside to it is that when you don't want to commit to a certain track, like it shows in your applications. So that is a downside to that. But also, as I, progressed in throughout all of these experiences, I had an assistantship with economic development nonprofit in my city. And I got the experiences from different places. And I realized that what I did the best and what I did the most was the academic work. And that is my real strength, and I should really commit to something that I'm good at. And so that was, basically my decision making. So I would say, think about what track you are going to take when you're going into your program. So kind of like try to think ahead. despite that you really don't know, and it feels like maybe the options will stay open, but your program and your advisor can really shape you into who you are going to become after graduation. And so this is something that you can discuss early on, and if you really have a goal in mind, to really pursue it.